China, 1380. You're in a tavern halfway through a story you really shouldn't be telling. But then, the door slides open, and a man wearing an immaculately embroidered jet black uniform slips in. That's not any man. It's Donnie Yen, and Donnie Yen is never there for dialogue. He flashes a gleaming badge, and your throat goes dry. He's Jǐnyīwèi, the emperor's personal KGB, and he's about to kung fu you into an Imperial Chinese black site. Welcome to the Ming Dynasty. Hold on. There was an Imperial secret police that worked in only black, and sometimes very, very dark gray. Have I got some history for you? Let's rewind to where this all started, because every great villain needs an origin story. And this one starts with a dude called Zhu Yuanzhang. Bro even looked scary. This Zhu guy had it rough. He was born a poor peasant, orphaned by famine and plague, and survived under the care of some Buddhist monks. And eventually, their monastery even went under. But even then, he took life's lemons and made an entire lemonade empire out of it. Because from there, he became a rebel leader, kicked the Mongols out of China, unified the country, and in 1368 founded one of the richest dynasties in Chinese history, the Ming Dynasty, as the Hongwu Emperor. So why the secret police? Well, your whole life has been on hard mode. Paranoia becomes policy, and history proved an emperor's biggest threats often sat right next to him. And so he assembled a small band of shadowy bodyguards as his personal FBI to watch everything and everyone and cut out any festering tumors like a 14th century doge. Sounds like a reasonable precaution, right? It was, until 1380 happened. His Grand Chancellor, Wei Zhongxian, was accused of treason. The evidence was thin, but his secret police did what secret police do best: interrogate and torture until they found proof of a massive conspiracy, exactly the nightmare Hongwu had feared. Hu was executed, his office abolished, and now every ministry reported directly to the emperor. And with all that proof, his shadows finally got a name. In 1382, the force was formalized as the Jǐnyīwèi. Jin for brocade, Yi for clothing, Wei for guard. Better known as the Embroidered-Uniform Guards. These were roughly 500 elite men designed to be his weaponized chemo against a cancerous bureaucracy, free of red tape and full of sharp edges. But Hu's execution was only the start. The purge rolled on for a decade, swallowing entire bloodlines. The final body count? Over 30,000 dead. 30,000. Clearly, this fabulously dressed Department of Government Efficiency was more like the Department of Government Executions. But were they actually an IRL fashion police? Not quite. Unlike modern dramas, it wasn't all black robes, gold dragons, and crimson accents worn by pretty boys handsome enough to kill. Instead, they wore bright ceremonial brocades called cifu, or bestowed by the emperor clothing, with extravagant embroidery and superb silks that quietly screamed, "Fool around and find out," to any would-be evildoers. When it actually came time to kick down doors, they probably looked less like runway models and more like a rugged Donnie Yen. So, while they might not have been ancient Darth Vaders, they were about to go full-on hallway scene on even more rebel scum. In 1393, near the end of Hongwu's emperor, his fourth son whispered suspicions about the top general, Lan Wu, and the Jǐnyīwèi went to work. Again. This time, over 40,000 alleged traitors and their families ended up dead. With his biggest threats now removed, Hongwu finally dialed back his glamorous guards, which had grown to 14,000, and the court could finally breathe easy. For about 5 minutes, because in 1402, a new boss took over. Enter the Yongle, or Forever Joyous Emperor. Funny name because he was the same fourth son that got Lan Yu axed, and because he claimed the throne, the rebelling against his own nephew, the heir that his dad had personally appointed. What? Yeah, it's complicated. But what matters is that this was a dangerous dude who had a habit of turning opponents into obituaries. And look what Daddy left behind. His very own in-house Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Yongle wasted no time making them even more powerful. He took out the invisible walls at the palace gates, gave them free roam over the whole map, and sent them off to plant informants among the Mongols, hunt turncoats in Vietnam, and keep tabs on Joseon, Korea. Back home, they were given their own interrogation dungeon, the Decree Prison, or 诏狱, where guilt came pre-installed. They did not forgive. They did not forget, and they were everywhere. Welcome to the Field Ops expansion pack. But even Yongle knew that was a lot of power. Long before Alan Moore, he was already asking, who watches the Watchmen? And so he created a secret police to watch the secret police. The eunuch-run Eastern Depot, or Dongchang. It was an NSA to the Jǐnyīwèi's FBI, collecting everyone's data while the Jǐnyīwèi kicked down their doors. With 2 overpowered mods and 1 all-powerful admin, this made for a brutally efficient system. Until the admin logged out. Yongle died in 1424, and as each successive emperor became more AFK than the last, by the 1500s, the Jǐnyīwèi stopped enforcing imperial loyalty and became weapons of palace politics. Eunuchs, ministers, and anyone with enough silver in their sleeves learned that their allegiances were negotiable. Warrants could be ignored, interrogations delayed, and accusations basically purchased. When your secret police can be bought and pointed at people you don't like, you don't have secret police. You have very expensive mercenaries with commitment issues. And it was the use of the Jǐnyīwèi to settle factional scores that set the stage for the most notorious eunuch of all time, Wei Zhongxian. Wei Zhongxian started life as a poor, illiterate peasant who castrated himself to get a job in the imperial court. To be fair, he started out doing honest work, looking after the future Tianqi emperor, until he ended up as the kid's foster dad, confidant, and emotional support eunuch. Which meant that when Tianqi's real father, the emperor, died in 1620, the 15-year-old suddenly found himself on the throne and had no one to turn to but his eunuch dad. Wei then became his right-hand man, signing off on imperial decrees, and before long, running the Eastern Depot itself. If he lived up to his name, Zhongxian, or loyal and virtuous, this might have been fine. Instead, all that power went straight to his head, and he started handing out government positions to his entire extended family within months. This made people very angry and was widely regarded as a bad move. The Donglin faction, scholar officials trying to bring morality back to rotting bureaucracy, saw Wei as corruption incarnate. They tried to get him impeached and sent the emperor a list of his crimes. But all that really did was paint a huge target on themselves. And that was the worst possible move. Because remember, Wei controlled the Eastern Depot, the emperor's eyes and ears, and since he was the guy delivering the emperor's edicts, he effectively controlled all of the Jǐnyīwèi. Welcome to Hail Hydra DLC. Wei used his power to incriminate and then eliminate all Donglin sympathizers. If you didn't lean in and say, Hail Wei, you were on the chopping block. Though he couldn't match Hongwu's sheer kill count, his infamy came from something worse: the merciless abuse of borrowed power. He was a moderator masquerading as an administrator, and that was cultural sacrilege. Unfortunately, Tianqi cared more about woodworking than governing, so Wei's rampage continued unchecked. until Tianqi suddenly died in 1627. Without his foster son's blank check, Wei tried to hide behind his Eastern Depot shield and do damage control. But all that karma caught up real quick. The next emperor, Chongzhen, promptly sent the Jǐnyīwèi to escort him into exile. The same Jǐnyīwèi that was doing his dirty work mere months earlier. Wei saw the writing on the wall and hanged himself before they could take him out. In an effort to salvage the dynasty, Chongzhen quickly uninstalled all the state spyware. The Eastern Depot was deleted. The Jǐnyīwèi were neutered into a ceremonial guard. With the swamp drained, he was gonna reboot the whole system. This is effectively where the legacy of the Jǐnyīwèi ended. Not because they were nerfed, because this was the worst possible time for a reboot. The Manchus were invading, famine was rampant, and rebellion was spreading like wildfire. Broken or not, without the watchdogs, nobody could see or stop the empire's collapse before it was already a lost cause. Chongzhen had done too much too soon rather than too little too late. Just like that, with the fall of the Ming Dynasty in 1644, the Jǐnyīwèi vanished with the very dynasty they were meant to protect. Born from paranoia, bloated by power, destroyed by hubris, the guard who once stood for loyalty became the poster child for the corruption that ended an empire. In our modern world of big data and mass surveillance, this cautionary tale is more relevant than ever. Just because you're not doing anything wrong doesn't mean there's nothing to fear. Because once you give too much power to the shadows will consume everything, even if they look really good while doing it. If you know someone who's always warning that too much power in one place never ends well, share this video with them. They will love this story. And to see what that kind of power does to one man instead of a whole dynasty, that's the video on your screen right now. A scholar is handed everything these guards spent 2 centuries protecting. The seal, the palace, a court that bows when he walks in, and he pays the entire bill back in a single afternoon. Click on this thumbnail right now and watch it. Now that you've made it this far and you're still watching this video, here is the secret password, GOLD. Start your comment with this word and I'll reply to you. And until next time, 再见!